everybody, Gina DeLuca here. Okay, so today the painting I'm going to be doing, I have custom blended a color. I saw a friend last night with this amazing coat that just looked like it was plugged into a wall. The color just jumped so much. I have not quite perfectly gotten that color. I need kind of some kind of electric blue to add to this. But when I was analyzing the color of her coat, I thought that the fluorescent purple would be a good place to start. And I happen to have some fluorescent purple, so I thought, yes, let's just start with that and build from there. And what I noticed, there is light that comes into my house, and I have my paints hanging on pegboard, much like you would see at the store. And so I have these. This is the fluorescent purple, but I want you to see what happened in the sun. Look at the difference in those colors. Look how much different that is. So as it was sitting, like this one was the one that was in front and this one was in back. You can see how much that color has changed, like just in the tube. So thinking about that, when you are varnishing your paintings, this is a reason to varnish your paintings, to use a UV varnish to protect the paint from UV so that it does not happen. So it even says right here on the side, light fastness is poor. Pretty bad. I'd say it's pretty poor. But that is the case with fluorescence in general. So you want to keep that in mind when you're finished with your painting. If you don't typically varnish and you're using those kinds of paints, if you're using paints that aren't very light fast and you aren't protecting it, it is going to change over time. You can put an alcohol ink painting, cover half of it with a piece of cardboard and put the other half in the sun for a week and lift it away, and it's going to be two completely different colors. Something to think about in your work is light fastness. Okay, that's enough of the nerdy aspect of this. Well, actually, no, there's still plenty of nerd stuff left. But let's start with the colors I am using. For my base coat / background, I have Liquitex Basics Dioxazine Purple. I have this here. Okay, this is where I kind of got into my mad scientist experimenting mode. This is this Little Piggy in DejaVu, really like super poppin' fluorescent kind of pink. You can see it's kind of in the same color family, but this is actually even more vibrant than that. But I wanted it to get closer to the color of her coat, so I added a bit of the Quinacridone Magenta. And I could not have used a tinier amount of the Phthalo blue, and it really just changed it immensely. Like, it's the Phthalo blue tint, like if you've ever, you know, decorated a cake and you've added like some of that color to the frosting, you know, all you got to do is dip your toothpick in it and swirl it in there, and it's a completely different color. I mean, this stuff is crazy. Anyway, so you can see on the stick there, like how bright that is. That pink, that was the magenta and the DejaVu. And one drop of phthalo blue changed it that much. But it is still a very vibrant color in the magenta family. I know it's not really showing up great now, but you'll see it at the end in the close-up, I'm sure. I have for my cell maker the Decoart Americana Metallics in 24 karat gold. This is a wonderful cell maker. When you use this with a glossier paint, you will get cells. And I have some ColourArte Prism Pour Ultra Metallics in Morning Light. This is an interference color. You can kind of see, can I get it to flash to see? But it's a blue, kind of a blue interference, which I thought would pop very nicely against that magenta. Okay, so as far as how I mixed this with the pigments, the first thing I did was put on a mask. If you are working with pigments, always, always, always wear a mask. If you breathe in those pigments, they are never coming out. You can't get it out. That's not how your lungs work. It gets in there. It's not good for you. Wear a mask. I know they're annoying, but you don't get fresh lungs. So protect yourself. So I put on my mask and I actually just mixed some of the pigment with a couple of drops of water until it was, you know, kind of slushy. In the past, I've used the Tipsy Piggy recipe where you basically are using alcohol. I'm just trying it with water. I want to see what happens. So I added some water to it to make it, you know, a consistency that was like dispersible. And I added, pardon me, that's when I added a bit of the Liquitex in the magenta and the blue. And then I added a few drops of golden pouring medium gloss because I just wanted to make sure that I was going to have enough binders in there. And then I added Floetrol. So I realized that's a lot. Mix the pigment with a bit of water to make it disperse easily. I added a little bit of the paint, added a little bit of the golden pouring medium, and then I added Floetrol. And the other paints are mixed, 1 part paint to 2 parts Floetrol. And that mixture is then thinned to the consistency that I want with my concoction of 90% water and 10% Floetrol. That's the recipe. We'll see what happens. We'll see how these all play together. Definitely interested in seeing how this magenta winds up playing with the gold. What happens? Does it sink? We'll see. Before we get started, have you seen the Fluid Art inspiration cards? If you have, you can fast forward about a minute, but if you have not, what we have are 52 cards. There are 42 technique cards, and each technique card has an associated video here on YouTube that gives you all of the information that you need, the exact paint brand, color, consistency, of course, you know, the technique, and all of the things that I can't fit on one of these cards. This is the painting that is in that particular video. This box contains a tip for that particular technique. And here at the bottom, we have the color palette that was used in that painting. And then these two boxes can be used together as the basis of a 2-color palette, or you can build off of those colors. And we also have 8 bonus color palette cards. Each one has 5 color palettes. You can use all of the colors or just some of the colors. Mix and match the bonus color palette cards with the technique cards, and you have more combinations than you could ever paint in a lifetime. These are available at my website, ginadeluca.net, and also at amazon.com. Okay, so the first thing that I'm going to do is pour a bit of this into my cup. Oh, let me show you what the consistency is. That would be helpful, wouldn't it? So this is about a 2 on my consistency scale. It is making a mound, but it disappears pretty quickly. It's making a nice thin stream off of my stick. Even stream, very important. If it is thick and then thin and then thick and then thin, you need to keep mixing. It's not fully mixed. That's what you're looking for. Okay, so I'm going to pour some of this base coat color in there. So what I am anticipating, and I could be very wrong, but this is going to be my guess, is that the gold will sell and hopefully the magenta will be up against that gold and it doesn't sink. However, just in case it does sink, because this pigment has iron oxide in it, which makes it pretty heavy. Just in case it does sink, I have this Dioxazine purple as my backup plan, just in case. So this way, the purple and the gold will react if the magenta disappears on me. That's my thinking anyway. Whether that's rational thinking, I don't know. But that was my thought process. And I think the interference will just kind of show up as kind of streaks, rings within the spiral. Non-selling, basically. That's my hypothesis. Or my prediction, I should say. Okay, so the reason I lay down a base coat is so that my paints slide around easily and evenly. That is important. I want them to spin out evenly. Popping some of these bubbles so they don't pop up through my pour later on. More will pop up as this sits, and I'll just do it again. Okay, so let's put some paint in a cup. Do I want... I think I'm going to do the interference first. So the other paints actually have a chance to push it around. So then when I pour the rest of the paints in, it'll actually disperse these interference paints a bit more. And the color that I want to end up in the center, I put in the cup last. And also, it's usually the one that has the most contrast with the first color that goes in the cup, because it ends up at the very, very bottom of my cup. A bit of that ends up down there. And when I do the center, that's what ends up in the center. Gives me a wonderful focal point contrast. And I'm going to pour from up high. Okay. So this purple is actually going to dry a lot darker than what it appears to be now. I mean, it looks pretty bright on the on my screen, or pretty dark, I should say, on my screen. Here in person, it looks much, much brighter than it's going to dry. I mean, you can see how dark that is. It's going to be a much darker color. The Floetrol really lightens it up, but it dries clear. So if you have issues with your colors not ending up, you know, maybe you mix up your Dioxazine purple and you're like, oh, that dried almost black. Keep in mind that your Floetrol, or not just Floetrol, but other pouring mediums as well, may make your paints appear lighter than they are. And if you find that to be happening a lot, you can just add a tiny bit of white. If I wanted the purple to dry this purple, I would add a tiny bit of white to my purple just to lighten that up. Okay, so I'm going to pour from up high again. And then I have a bit left of this purple, and I'm going to go over top of all of those colors. So all of the colors have an opportunity to react. Actually, I'll just save a bit of that just in case I need it for something else. Okay, you can see that gold is trying to make its way to the top again. I'm going to pour quickly, spin slowly, doing my best to stay in the center. And I am pouring from a bit up high, as you can see. I'm trying to get these to kind of blend a bit. So if you pour fast and spin slow, oof. All right, I'm gonna get closer to the canvas now. If you pour fast and spin slow, it gives you more of the spiral action as opposed to a ring pour. Here comes the gold. This is going to give me my focal point in the center. This is going to get stretched pretty good. So you want to make sure that you're careful with that center. The dismount is important. I like to do kind of 1.5 turns. Ye old Fibonacci. Okay. I'm just going to smallest little thing, just a little teeny tiny thing. But when I go to stretch that out, that could make a big difference. Okay, so far, so good. I like what I'm seeing. I do hope that I get to see more of this magenta. I hope it doesn't all come off. Going to pop the bubbles. So as I pop these bubbles, some of these bubbles are kind of underneath that top layer. And as I pop the bubbles, it is bringing some of the paint from below with it. And the gold paint is a cell maker. I love this. This is, yes. I hope I can keep, all that. That looks very cool. I may have to leave some negative space on this one because I really like what's going on there. It's a good time for Satchmo to sharpen up his claws, I guess. So as these sit, they will grow. The matte paints will be pushing away the glossier paints, and that is what is making these cells happen. And I have to keep this moving because my surface is not level. My painting, or my canvas, has been leveled to the table. But the spinner is not leveled, so I just have to keep it moving so it doesn't lean to one side. And then once I'm finished with the painting, I will take it off and put it to how it is leveled. So we'll see what happens, how this all turns out. I will show this dried piece in the next video. So you can see as we let this sit, these cells develop, they get bigger. These little tiny cells started off as little pinpoints, like little teeny tiny cells, but because that gold has a hydrophobic effect, it's pushing the other paints away. You can even see in these lines how the lines are getting pushed by the gold. Well, I hope some of this magenta does show up, or more of it, anywho. But this is all going to be interference. So all of this kind of looks whitish now, but it's not going to look like that when it dries. It's just going to be this flash. So it's actually going to probably look darker there until the light hits it in just such a way. Okay, I think about ready to give this a genuine spin, and starting to tilt off the edge over here, so it's going to start doing it on its own. All right, let's give this a twirl. Yeah, see, I didn't want to lose this part here, but I kind of feel like that's going to be too much paint if I leave it. So I believe I'm going to have to do a bit more spinning. But what I'm going to do is I still have a bit of paint left in this cup, and I'm going to do something with the edges here so that so I'm just kind of scooping all of this other paint into this cup, and I'm going to put some lines on the corners because it is not going to happen evenly. I don't think. It's already a bit askew. So this is just going to make the corners blend a little better. There's a method to my madness, y'all. And I'm kind of just keeping this tilted so that my paint doesn't settle on the bottom, and you don't have to do it this way. I just like to make things harder on myself sometimes. Okay. So I have a bit of, you can see just what's in there now. Just a bit of that in there. And I'm just going to do some little streaky action here. And you'll see once I spin it, it's actually just going to blend right in. And you won't even know. But this is actually going to help it spin on those corners a bit better. A little more juice there. And that will just look like it was supposed to be like that. Just one more. Just give me one more line right there. Okay. Perfect. All right. Okay, so zhuzh up the side here for a second. How is this doing? How are we doing here? What am I thinking? So sometimes when you're doing this, like the sides, there might be little spots where you didn't get coverage. You can just grab some of the drips from down below, either from the painting or from what has dripped off of your painting, and just touch that up. Give it a little love. All right, let me see. How much is this moving? I can kind of judge how much paint is still left on there by how much it moves if I tilt it. I think this would be okay. I think it's okay. I really don't want to lose any more of this. That was more than I wanted to lose to begin with. Okay. So I am going to let this sit, let it percolate and see what happens, and I'll bring it for a close-up. Back in a few. Okay, here it is. That magenta is showing up nicely. So you can see the magenta is hiding behind that interference color. I'm trying to get a good angle on that. But I think once this dries, like, it's going to be magenta from one direction and then that flash of blue from the other. There's some more of that going on. So I think that's probably going to come out pretty nifty. I know somebody is going to yell at me in the comments for not showing the dried piece. I'm doing the best I can. Have a lot going on. And I wanted to get this out, and I just kind of really felt like that interference was the color that needed to be in there, but I know that it needs to be dry for you to see what the interference does. And so just come back on Sunday and check out the video I put up on Sunday. I will show this dried piece, I promise. And yeah, but there it is. It is confusing my camera. It does not know what color it's supposed to be focusing on. But I think it's going to be really pretty. But there it is. I hope you enjoyed. Hope you learned something. If you did, please do like, share, and subscribe. If you are subscribed, please make sure you have clicked that bell. Like, I love how that interference looks next to that magenta. That is why I wanted that blue in there, because I thought that blue and the magenta, or the interference blue and magenta, would be very pretty together. But yes, make sure you click that bell. If you have not clicked the bell, you aren't receiving notifications when my videos go up. Only 7% of my subscribers are getting my notifications. So I have 161,000 subscribers and I put up a video and I don't get 1,000 views. You know, something's kind of getting a little weird there. So be sure to check that out. Check out the description box below for links to, that's a cool cell, for links to my affiliate links. Check those out. Fluid Art Company, Decoart, and ColourArte are 3 of the products that I use today that I am an affiliate with. So do use those links, and I will receive a small commission at no additional cost to you. Also in the description box, you will find the link to my website, GinaDeLuca.net, where you can find my art and music and fluid art inspiration cards for sale. And you will find the link to our Facebook group. Go make some art, join us there, post your masterpieces, ask your questions, get some inspiration. Also, the Patreon, do check that out. There is some exclusive content on there. I walk you through step by step how to do one of the splash paintings, from the sketching aspect of it all the way down to the painting, in real-time, full-length videos. Yep, I think that's everything. I think. But do check out that Patreon. We have Zooms every week where I kind of help you go through, you know, whatever issues you might be having painting wise, questions, why a painting's not turning out, you know, just finding motivation in general, what have you. We help each other through all of that. So do check that out. Okay, that is going to be it for me for today. Show the dried piece on Sunday. I hope y'all have a beautiful day. Now go make some art.